I'm Chris Simonetti.
I'm Gracie and I'm not, and welcome back to episode 8. It's been a while since we've filmed.
Even though we've had recordings.
That's right, but it feels good to be back again. So don't forget to follow our social media. It'll be linked below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we're excited to be filming today.
So, in several of the other videos and in the posts, I've talked about an event that I feel like was the spiritual awakening night, and we both talked about earlier today what we were going to talk about, and I just feel like it's time to kind of share that story because that whole night is what changed my whole perspective on life. So there's several things that led up to that night, and then Gracie was involved in the next morning, and she has her side of what happened also that she's gonna share, and I'm gonna give the most short version of possible. So I was in complete active addiction. This event had been 2 weeks prior to what I call my sobriety date, because after this I had used 2 other times, not heavily, just I did it out of purely being sick and just trying to get through withdrawal. So my sobriety date is February 12th. This event happened on January 31st, up in the middle, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it started out a few weeks before this event. The person that I was seeing at the time told me I hadn't came out of my room in
honestly, months, really.
Yeah. That's not even being dramatic.
No, it's really not. Really, months.
There.
You would come in and out, but
I was scared. I was in a psychosis. Yeah. I was scared of everything. I was going through a lot of mental things. So, yeah, I didn't come out.
I genuinely think 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Easily.
So, I don't even know what happened. We never hung out with people. But, this couple had come over our house, and even in active addiction, I still always was trying to take care of whoever was around me. And so this couple comes in, and the girl is obviously pregnant. I can't say yes or no if she was using, but my gut instinct said that she was probably still in active addiction. And they had been living in a camper, and this story is very significant and later on. So she comes in, she doesn't have anything, she hadn't showered in a while, she said she hadn't shaved her legs in forever. So of course, the way I am, I immediately go get some of my clothes and get her a razor and everything to make her feel better, and so she was okay, I'll bring you this stuff later. I'm no, just keep everything. Just being kind to the next person really is the whole moral of the story there. So anyway, they stayed there all day. They got cleaned up and stuff. And so then they were do y'all want to go mudding? I didn't want to go, but something in me said just get out and go do something. In my gut, I knew something I should go. So prior to this night, the guy that I was seeing had told me, as I was staying in the house for months at a time, he tells me that the neighbor, whom I do not know, I've seen him a couple times, but he said the guy came over and was where's my girl been? And he said, who, my mom? And the dude's no, the other girl. That other girl was me. And the guy I was seeing said that he told him, I buried her in the backyard. And he said it in a joking way, and I just didn't find it funny at all. So anyway, that's stuck in the back of my head because I overthink everything. So that's in the back of my head. So fast forward a little bit. And so we start to go out to the river bottoms, and the river bottoms is never a good place for me to go because
I think y'all will find that out as a reoccurring thing as the time goes on.
Every time I end up in the river bottoms, I end up
nothing good has come out of it ever.
Getting incarcerated or something.
That's a story for another time though.
So anyway, we head out there, and I remember listening to music. I was actually kind of excited. And then
I remember you'd even texted me and you were like, hey, we're going mudding, and you were excited, and I was happy for you because I knew you hadn't done anything like that in so long.
So anyway, we get out there, and I did do drugs, but right before this happened. And to be honest, like, in my mind, I think that me doing drugs kept me alive that night. Like, for real, because, like, I had so much adrenaline. I mean, I was on meth and God knows what else, but, like, in my heart, I believe that kept me alive. So we get out there, and, you know, again, burying bodies is in the back of my head. And so I'm sitting in the car, I look over, and this man grabs a shovel, and you ain't gotta tell me twice. Like, I, like, step out the car, and, like, in all seriousness, jokes aside, like, I'm not gonna die in a scary movie. Obviously, I got away, but, like, in all reality, there was, like, a voice that told me, like, run. I remember, like, and I, like, did not ignore it. Like, I felt, it was like, danger, run. So, do I think I was gonna be killed that night? No, but, like, at the time,
now you don't.
I mean, now I don't, but at the time it was very real. And so I took, like, there were some weapons in the vehicle, and I grabbed one of them. So here I am, I have a phone and a weapon, and I take off running.
Mind you, this is at the end of January. I don't know if we said that. Like, it is freezing outside. Like,
and I looked up on the temperature, and it was like high 35, low 25 on the website.
I mean, it was freezing outside.
And I had, like, jacket and hat,
and also, mind you, this is like, what time was it?
I mean, it had to be 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning to start out with. I mean, it was,
yeah.
So anyway, I take off running, and I call this girl who I don't even know, that the one that was at the house earlier, and I'm like, where y'all at? I think he's trying to kill me. And then, like, I sat there, I'm like, man, I don't even know this girl. So this phone that I had that I could have, like, got a hold of somebody, like, I throw the phone, because I'm like, I mean, again, I'm in a psychosis too. Like, I'm like, somebody's gonna find me. Like, I don't want to be found. This man's gonna kill me. So I take off running. Like, it is January 31st, 30 degrees. Let's just say at a high.
It was freezing.
I take off running. So, like, about 20 minutes later, maybe not even that long, I hear his truck coming. And I'm like, oh no. I take off running even faster and further and further and further. And,
I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere. Like, you're not in town. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Like a cornfield. Yeah. Nothing around. No houses. No nothing. And I'm running away from the only person that knows where I'm at. And not you, but, like.
Yeah, the person who knew where you were.
And I get out there, and I have, like, this weapon in my hand. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. What am I going to do with this? So, like, I just drop everything, like, everything. And so then it starts raining. I get on down, like, I don't hear his car anymore. So I'm like completely out of shape and out of breath at the time, and not healthy whatsoever. Hadn't came out of my room, so I'm very not in shape. So anyway, I run for hours, like, walking for hours. And mind you, it's pitch black. I can't even see my hand in front of my face. And I have, like, a huge fear of, like, getting lost, getting kidnapped. Like, so there on the spiritual end, like, I feel like it was, like, me facing all my fears this night.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't hear his truck anymore, which is really loud. I get out there, like, I go walking through the cornfield, and I fall, like, where it looks like just, like, barely any water across the cornfield. I take a step, and it literally engulfs me to my shoulders, water, and it's freezing cold outside.
Degrees, yeah.
So I get out. I had this big, like, jacket on, so I have to lose the jacket, because I mean, I had, like, 2 jackets on, so I lose the top one, and I mean, at this point, I'm, like, shivering cold. And then so I'm walking all through I walk all night long. I mean, I'm falling another puddle of water. My hair at this point is, like, crunchy frozen. So after 8 hours probably of walking and just trying to find my way out of there, I end up like, I'm standing out there in this field, and, like, I can't even make this up. Like, it sounds like it sounds so poetic to me, but, like, I'm standing out there, and I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like, I'm running from somebody that I claim I love and that loves me, but I'm fearing for my life. Like, it's time to start, like, I mean, I just had like an epiphany of like the spiritual awakening. I turn around and there's literally lightning. It is January 31st and I see lightning behind me, and I look forward and like the sun's coming up, and like how, I mean, poetic, like the storm's behind me, like, and so in my crazy mind, I'm like, all right, walk towards the sun. And so that's what I did. I started walking the sun. So come daylight, like I found myself like on like a familiar road. I wouldn't have been able to find my way back to town, but like, and I'm weak, you know what I mean? Like my body has been
walking for hours.
My feet, like, I just can't even explain the pain and like weakness that I felt. So I'm walking down the road, like, not that house, like, and I don't know what, like, I ended up like walking into this deer, like, I see this deer standing on a property that said do not enter, but of course I'm like just doing whatever I want. And so I walk into this property, and we had rode 4-wheelers back there before, and I think that's why like I went this certain way, because again, it said do not enter though. Or maybe that was just God walking me where I needed to go for real, because had I not taken that way, I wouldn't have found where I was. But anyway, I find this deer stand, not like the one that's up in like in a tree, like just a chair, but like I crawl up in there and I lay down, and like I really truly believe at this point, like I'm fighting for my life at this point, because one, like I said, I'm frozen. I hadn't had anything to drink. I'd been walking for, I can't do the math right now, but how many ever hours. And like, so I was like battling, like coming in and out of consciousness, and like, and I've said before that like when like I had been battling suicide for that whole year, and like when the reality of I'm gonna die out here, like I'm gonna die out here, I'm alone, no one knows where I'm at, like when that set in, like and like I thought about my kids and you, and like when the reality of death set in, that's when like I decided like this isn't how I want to go out, you know. And like I was having seizures. I'd had like a seizure or two like before, like coming off drugs, but at that point I think like something in me like my body was shopping, like and like I swear, like something in me, I don't know if it's just like, you know, I've read where like people have like a burst of adrenaline like right before they die, and like I don't know if it was that or just God giving me some more energy, but like I remember like looking out, like it had like a little window cut out or whatever, and I remember like looking out after I had been like passed out for a little bit, and I saw like a deer like looking right at me, and like everything just seemed so more bold, and like I just felt sobered up real quick, and like I crawled out, like I didn't just like crawl out, like I remember being like not coherent, and then something like and something told me, like, again, that same voice that told me to run was like, get up, go, you got to get out of here, like, go. And so I look around, I see a brick house, like at that point I don't think I would have cared what house it was, like, because I was like done. I start like dragging myself through this cornfield, like, and when I say dragging, like my feet, I could feel like inches of blisters. Like I had these cheap ass boots on, like I don't even know how I made it through the, like my feet were so blistered. So I get up to this house, and I'll tell you why, something just screams saved me. Like, so my parents had got my kids the Christmas before, like one of those mini trampolines, you know, that was out in the front yard, and then there was like a construction trailer, and my dad had just like recently bought one of those too, so it was like safe to me, you know, like okay, their kids live here, like this is safe. And this is where like so I knock on the door, and I remember like the guy's like holding a baby, like, and he's like, hold on, let me get some pants on, and I'm like, and what's funny is I had taken this little test on Facebook one time, and it was like if a stranger came to your door and it had like A, B, C, or D, which one would you have to pick? And that's what I remember picking that, like, that I would say, hold on, I have to go get some pants. And like that, like, so when he shut the door, I started like laughing, and he's like, well, he had said, let me go with my wife. and his wife comes to the door, and I grew up with her. Like, I had known her since she knows who she is. Like, I've messaged her a few times and said, like, you and your husband literally, like, restored my hope in humanity, like, for real, because they were so kind to me, man. Like, and what's crazy is, like, I mean, I looked crazy. Like, I know I looked crazy. I mean, my hair was frozen, like, I was dirty. Like, how did God notice me to that door where, like, they were just so genuinely kind. And I knew, like, I just knew it was going to be, and someone I knew, yeah. And what's crazy is her sister, like, maybe a year or two before that, had reached out to me about wanting to be sober, and, like, I led her to her sponsor, and, like, it's just, like, I wasn't doing good at that time, but I said, I know somebody that can help you, and it's just funny how events happen. So I'm standing there, I'm like, I just need to please use a phone, like, because I just throw mine in the river or in the cornfield, and this girl says, you need to get in the shower, like, and so this is where the story from the girl that came over to my house, like, where I had been kind to this girl, she comes out with, like, a handful of clothes, and she's like, go take a shower, I'll help. And, like, it was just, you know, in my whole life I have felt like I've been kind and it hasn't been reciprocated, and, like, it was just, like, that was, and it has, but not that quickly, you know, like, I had been kind to somebody, and that kindness paid off because someone is doing the same exact thing to me. And so I go in there, like, I'm in shock. So I had called you at that time, like, before I got in the shower, and
so this was, like, at this point, this was, like, 10:45 in the morning. Like, it was still, I mean, it was, like, already 10:45. Like, I mean, this is for you to have started walking it, to put it in perspective for how long you were walking, because you start
as soon as I got out.
Like, she called me, and it was, like, 10:45.
So I've been walking. I would walk 500. Da-da-da-da. Literally. So, anyway, I'm in this shower, and I swear, like, I look down, like, leaves are falling out of my hair, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how am I not dead? And, like, I don't know, like, and her husband had, like, wrote her, like, there was, like, a little sticky note up in the shower, and it was, like, just, like, a positive affirmation from him, and I'm just like, dude, like, God just worked in my life, like, these are good people. So, like, I even have messaged her on, like, dates, even now, like, on, like, my year sobriety. I mean, I have messaged her and just been like, I don't think she even understands, like, the effect that had on my life. Yeah. Like, so anyway, what is crazy is the first phone call I made was to the guy that I was dating, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and that, God, right there. So,
and can I say, like, your mom had texted me and said this. We actually went back and looked at the messages today, but she had texted me at, like, 10:20 something, asking if I had talked to you that day, and I said no. And I knew that was weird because, like, she had texted me asking if I had talked to you. I was like, why, did something happen? And she said, Krista, like, went off last night around, like, we don't know where she is. And so I remember I, like, tried to call you, didn't answer. And I got, like, super anxious. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what? Because, like, I knew she was alone. Like, that's what I guess scared me, was I knew she was alone. And not even 20 minutes later, you called me. I mean, I had just found out. Like, I didn't even really have time to get so stressed out because you called me almost immediately.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking of being alone, like, I think that's where, you know, like, when I was standing in the middle of that cornfield, like, I didn't feel alone. Like, that is the first time in my life that, like, I always thought that, you know, my higher power had to be something that I believed beyond me, you know what I mean? But, like, when I was standing out there, like, that is when my belief of, like, it, like, he lives in me. Like, I felt him, like, every step of the way. Like, just, I mean, I can't even, like, put into words, like, just the feeling that I've had since then. And I don't know, like, I'm not saying that it's been easy, but, like, I've always felt like all the decisions that I make now are like not based on myself, and it's because of all that happening. So anyway, I call you. I mean, they're there immediately, and I'm in shock. I think I sat there like on the whole way home, and your mom was talking to me about some like had I heard about some recent local thing on the news. I'm like, I've been off the grid for like 2 years. I don't even know what you're talking about. like what? And I don't know. I was trying to make small talk, but I was so out of it. Like,
I remember though in the car, like, I mean, at the time, I didn't know your, like, whole path and view had changed. But, like, looking back now, you were so... I just remember you being so grateful. Like, I remember you saying, like, me answering the phone. Like, you said that over and over. Like, I always answered the phone when you called. Like, it never... And, like, I just vividly remember how grateful you were that we...
Y'all, like, everybody that was there for me that day are the people that I pushed away. And that is, like, that's also why I've said, like... I just walked away from everything that wasn't healthy for me, because like when it was a tough time, like I saw who cared and who was there, and like I didn't feel alone anymore, even though I never was. Like,
yeah.
So, and I remember her, like your mom, like I wanted to go back to where I was at, like,
yeah,
take me back there, and she's like, no, we're taking you to your mom, and I'm like, oh my god, like at this point I hadn't talked to my mom in a while. I was scared to death, but. Like, we get there, and as soon as the door opened, my mom just, like she was angry, but, like, I could see in her face, like, of relief that I wasn't dead, because, like...
I think we were all just, like, scared.
Like, I don't know, and then, like, I'm still, like, I'm literally in shock from that night, and, like, my kids were there, and, like, I'm like, and I remember, like, I had to have my mom take me into town, because I was, like, sick for a few days, but, I mean... In the days that followed that, like, I remember, like, laying in bed for, like, a day or whatever, and then the next day I'm like, I got to do something. Like, I don't know what I thought I was going to do, but I remember, like, sitting up in bed and, like literally having to, like, drag myself out of bed, and I, like, went to go try to put on socks, and my feet were so blistered, like, I could barely get my socks on.
I remember you couldn't walk for days.
I don't know, for, like, a week, I was in, like, a spiritual psychosis. Like, I thought everything was, like, a sign, and... Anyway, so a week went by or whatever, and I had kind of, my mind kind of cleared, but like everything, I remember for a week straight, I listened to like all kinds of music on my mom and them's TV, and like that's when I said like music just like, I mean, it was just, it had to be like a higher power thing. I mean, at the time I thought I was on like some kind of like project or something, because everything was just so like synchronized. Like, I'm like, this cannot be real, like this cannot be happening. I'm on... Who's popping out to tell me this is like I'm part of some project? Really, I thought I was part of a federal investigation because I'm into so much. Like, I stayed in my room for 4 months. Don't nobody care what I'm doing. And at this point, I had not called my probation officer for like a month, and this was during Corona and everything. So, I mean, I got away with a whole lot during Corona than what a normal person wouldn't. And I was so manipulative during active addiction. I thought that I could manipulate myself out of it. So I'm still talking to like my counselor at this point, who went through all this stuff with me. And so I called her. I'm like, look, this is what happened. Like, the boyfriend I had at the time got arrested the next day. So pretty certain the PO's gonna catch wind of everything that happened, you know what I mean? Because it's gonna come out. So my counselor's like, look, I'm gonna need you to like call in 2 weeks when you're supposed to, and not act like yourself. And she's like, no offense, just like I tend to overshare, and like I would tell him way too much. So just check in. That's it. Just check in. So I remember calling him, and I was scared to death because I knew I was hit. Like, I knew that this is the second time I've been down in the river bottoms in the last 5 years. Like, they're going to know. So, I'm like, hey, it's Krista Hatfield. Just calling to check in. And he says, don't even. Go turn yourself in. You have till the middle of the day. And I'm like, are you serious? And I'm like, whatever. I'm not even fighting it. All right, dude. So, like, I remember, like, going in, though, like I just knew, like, I just knew everything was gonna be okay, and here we are. So
I'd say looking back on that day too, another huge thing, which like now it makes more sense, but after we picked you up and we went back to your parents' house, that was the first time you'd ever admitted that you were using. I mean, obviously, like, it was all like, I feel like a forbidden thing, like we knew, you know, I feel like you knew, we knew at times, but like you looked at all of our faces and admitted it to us, and I think that's the only time and the first time you ever did it to me.
I don't think I'd ever came out and told anybody that like everyone assumed because I got in trouble or I had to go to rehab, but like I never.
Yeah, even after, I don't think there was ever a time you admitted it, but like, in like looking back today, that makes so much sense because you had, like, your life took a turn that night, but at the time I don't even think we realized how powerful that was. But I remember feeling like sitting there, and I mean, obviously we were just glad you were safe, but I remember just feeling like when you told me that, I mean, in a way, it almost felt like weight was lifted off my shoulders, because when you love an addict, you always second guess yourself. When you think they're using, you're going to talk yourself out of it. At least I did. You know, it was always, I thought, okay, well, she might be, but at the same time, it could just be this. And I knew, but it's the denial, I guess. I don't know. So when you looked at me and told me that, it was just clarification, and I felt so much relief to know. I don't want to say I ever felt like I was crazy, because I didn't feel like I was crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like I was crazy coming up with all these scenarios in my head or trying to overcompensate for things you were doing in my head.
Well, I would straight lie to y'all and say, I'm just depressed, I'm just tired, or like...
It's just like everything, just like, for me, even the picture just got clear, even though I knew, and I definitely knew at that point you were using, but it just, you admitting it to me was just a whole.
And I think that was the point that I could start being like honest. Like, I started telling, like, I guess like finding my voice. Like, I had been hiding all this stuff that had been weighing me down, all these things that I had been through, like, that I feel were, you know, traumatic and damaging, emotionally damaging. Now, you know, like, that might not be somebody else's point of view, but for me, I went through a lot of traumatic stuff that impacted me, even still today, that I've had to do a lot of work on, you know, and I never could tell y'all that because I felt like I was always like loyal to a fault. And like, I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I am willing to change whatever I gotta do to. So that's
like, you were just so ready, like, you really were ready to just change your life at that point. And also, like you said, you were in shock. I remember you sitting there just literally in shock. I think half the stuff we said, what I could picture you feeling like is like, you know, in movies when somebody, like, it zooms in on somebody and like everything around them is like blurry.
That's exactly what it felt like.
That's what it looked like, how you felt. And I just remember I could tell you were so overwhelmed, but I remember you being, once again, I think you were so grateful you were alive, but you were going through so many emotions. I'm pretty sure I remember you saying that you were just questioning, like, why you're here. And I remember, like, your mom telling you, like, Krista, God has a bigger plan for you. Like, there is a reason. And I think we just reassured you of that. Even if you weren't questioning it, we just knew, like, what you felt. We were like, there is a reason you're here. Like, I think it's not like we were like an intervention, but it was like, at this point, because you had admitted it to us, we were like, you have to get help. Like, you have to let us help you at this point, you know, like, there is a reason you were still here after all these things. Like, God has a bigger plan for you, but you have to let us help you.
Yeah. And I remember sitting there and just being like, I was in shock, but I had this feeling of like, okay, God, like, I'm ready for whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. like I told you, I woke up like every day like, this can't be my purpose, like, this cannot be my purpose. Mm-hmm. And regardless of just being a mother is my purpose, you know, or being a friend or what a cousin, whatever, like, I hadn't been any of those things, you know, like, and I knew that, like, and then when my kids' dad had brought them home, and this is how in shock I was. So, like, I look at him, I had like a lot of like, this was psycho, like, maybe it wasn't, I don't know, like, I had a bunch of like visions out there while I was in there, like, just things that like are just memories, you know what I mean. And like, my child's father had like years ago shot himself in the foot, right, for some pain pills, because he's also an active addiction, or an addict, and he was healthy at the time when he got there, and I'm like, did you shoot yourself in the foot? And he's like, 11 years ago, what is wrong with you? Like, just like, I was flooded with emotions, you know what I mean? And just, I don't know. He's like, what are you on?
He knew.
But like, I don't know. Just I'm so like, I felt like that needed to be told because I keep talking about this event that happened and like I went through this stuff. Like that's what I went through. Like I almost died. Like, and like I've done research on like things people have to go through or what can lead up to like a spiritual awakening, and like near death experiences on there. Pandemic, that was on there. Like I experienced both of those things. Like I don't know, like that's a hard story to tell because it's embarrassing, but like it had such an impact on my life. Like
I think it shows growth with our podcast too, because I mean, for the past, this is our 8th episode, so for the past 8-9 weeks that we've been doing this, we were not ready to share that. Like we thought about it, but we were like, it's not time. So I don't know why this is the time for us to share, why we feel like this week we should share it, but we definitely haven't been ready until now.
Or someone needed to hear that.
That's what I mean. Like
one time I was in such a psychosis that I was standing out in the yard and a garbage truck came by and it said like the side of the truck said a new way and had an arrow pointing that way and I followed it.
Like down the road.
I thought it was a new way. I needed a new way of life.
This will get me somewhere. The garbage truck. Can you imagine though if it would have led you to something that would have been a garbage truck?
Can you imagine the drivers looking in their rear view?
You're like looking at the arrow and walking forward. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you for all your continued support. We have a lot of good things coming, so please stay tuned. And we'll see you guys soon.
Keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
Bye.
Bye.